She showed up in Cincinnati already being called the most dangerous woman on tour, and she left that city having proven exactly why. Because the player standing across the net from her that day had no idea what she was walking into. Amanda Anisimova had never shared a court with Alex before, and everything she'd heard going in was secondhand. Stories about the noise, about the flags, about crowds that didn't just watch her matches, but seemed to live inside them. None of it prepared her for the real thing. In 68 minutes, barely more than an hour, the 21-year-old from the Philippines took apart a woman ranked inside the world's top 10, and did it so cleanly that by the time it was over, people were asking if there was anyone left on tour who could actually slow her down. Because here's the thing about Alex right now. She isn't just winning matches, she's settling old scores. 7 times in a row she had walked onto a court against someone who had beaten her before. And 7 times in a row she walked off having flipped the result. Anisimova simply became the newest name added to that list. Before the match even started, Anisimova had said all the right things, the way champions usually do when they know they're about to face a storm they can't fully picture yet. She talked about how impressive Alex's season had been, about the passion of her fan base, about how she was looking forward to soaking in an atmosphere unlike anything else on tour. There was warmth in her words, sure, but there was also something else. A quiet acknowledgement that this wasn't going to be a normal Tuesday at the office. She knew the noise was coming. She just didn't know how loud it would actually get. And when the match began, it became obvious almost immediately that Alex had zero interest in playing the role of the underdog just because she was facing someone with a bigger ranking. From the very first exchange, she was dictating. Clean strikes off both wings, footwork that never seemed rushed, a level of composure that looked less like a 21-year-old chasing a moment and more like a veteran defending her turf. Anisimova, for all her talent, simply didn't have answers. The scoreline read 6-3, 6-2, and honestly, that scoreline undersells how in control Alex actually looked out there. This wasn't a nervy escape or a match she stumbled through. It was a statement, and it fit perfectly into a bigger story that's been building for 2 years now. Because it wasn't that long ago that Alex was grinding through qualifying rounds at Grand Slams. Nowhere near the spotlight, nowhere near the players she's now beating on a weekly basis. Beating Anisimova pushed her win total against players who had previously defeated her to 8 in a row. An absurd number when you actually sit with it, and it also marked something even bigger. Her 10th career victory over a top 10 opponent. To put that in context, since 1990, only 3 women have racked up more top 10 wins within their first 13 career meetings against that caliber of opponent. Steffi Graf, Martina Navratilova, and Monica Seles. That's the company Alex is suddenly being mentioned alongside. 10 wins, 3 losses against the very best players in the world. A ratio that legends are made of. And what makes it even wilder is how recent most of that damage has been done. 7 of those 10 top 10 scalps have come in 2026 alone. She's beaten a former world number 2. She's taken down a top 3 player. She's knocked off multiple top 5 and top 8 opponents, including beating one of them twice. Look at the list of names she's dismantled over these past few months. A former US Open champion, a Grand Slam finalist, players who've spent years living inside the top 10. And you start to understand why the tennis world has stopped treating her wins as surprises and started treating them as expectations. After the match, Alex didn't sound shocked by any of it either. She said plainly that she's playing the best tennis of her life right now, and that the confidence comes from simply knowing she's already beaten these players before. So stepping onto a court with them doesn't carry the same fear it might have a year or 2 ago. That's a dangerous mindset for everyone else on tour because confidence like that tends to snowball. The win over Anisimova also extended her current run to 8 victories out of her last 9 matches, a stretch that kicked off with a massive title run at the DC Open just 2 weeks earlier. Her only blemish in that stretch came against Belinda Bencic in a brutal fourth-round battle in Toronto. The kind of loss that barely dents momentum because everything since has gone right. But if you really want to understand what's happening with Alex right now, the numbers only tell half the story. The other half is what happens inside the stadium the moment she steps onto the court. Because this isn't just a tennis phenomenon anymore, it's turned into a full-blown cultural moment. Anisimova had said before the match that she loves playing in front of big, loud crowds, that she expected most of the energy in the building to be rooting for her opponent, and that she planned to feed off that energy rather than shrink from it. It's a mature, confident thing to say before a match. But nothing she said beforehand actually matched what she walked into. The stadium in Cincinnati turned into a wall of red, white, and blue, packed with Philippine flags waving from every section, chants echoing off the walls the entire match. The same wave of noise that had already transformed an arena in Toronto into something people started calling Little Manila. And this wasn't a crowd that just happened to be in town. Fans had organized around this match specifically. One group scheduled an entire college reunion just to coincide with her appearance. Another fan drove 8 hours straight from Toronto, having already watched her play there, just to see her again in a different city. That's not casual fandom, that's devotion. And Alex has noticed it too. She's talked about how meaningful it is to watch the Filipino community show up like this for tennis, a sport that hasn't always had a massive following back home, and how she hopes it sparks something bigger, gets more people picking up a racket, gets more kids believing this sport is for them too. She even has a nickname for the wild atmosphere she creates on the road, borrowing language from Philippine basketball culture to describe it. The kind of chaotic, communal energy that turns a sporting event into something closer to a block party. And you can see why that description fits. Because for Anisimova, an American playing on American soil, this was a genuinely strange experience. Walking into her own country and finding a stadium that felt like enemy territory. Naomi Osaka, who has faced this exact atmosphere herself, described playing against Alex as feeling less like a tennis match and more like stepping into a packed basketball arena. The energy isn't just loud, it's transformative, turning a routine second-round match into something that feels closer to a cultural celebration than a sporting event. And the numbers behind that celebration are staggering when you consider the scale. Ohio is home to close to 17,000 Filipino Americans, with Cincinnati's own Filipino population sitting somewhere in the low thousands. Yet somehow this community mobilized in a way that made it feel like the entire stadium had been rented out. Distance clearly wasn't a deterrent. People weren't just showing up to watch tennis, they were showing up to be part of something, to celebrate a young woman who has become a genuine symbol of pride for a nation of well over 100 million people. What started as a moving moment in Washington earlier in the summer has now followed her from city to city, growing louder each time, and by the time it landed in Cincinnati, it had become impossible to ignore. But here's where the story gets even more interesting, because the win over Anisimova wasn't the finish line. It was just the latest checkpoint on a path that's about to get significantly harder. Waiting in the fourth round is a name that has genuinely troubled Alex before. Wimbledon champion Linda Noskova, the Czech world number 6, who has already beaten her twice this season, including a tight 3-set loss in the Berlin semifinals and a more lopsided defeat at Indian Wells. A third meeting between these two wouldn't just be another match. It would be a real measuring stick, a chance to find out how much Alex has actually grown since those earlier defeats. Whether the version of her walking around Cincinnati right now is finally ready to flip that particular script too. And if she does get past Noskova, the road doesn't get any friendlier. A likely quarterfinal opponent is world number 3 Jessica Pegula, the very player Alex beat in the Washington Open final just a few weeks earlier. A result that many are pointing to as the true turning point of her entire summer. Pegula will be looking for payback on a different surface, with a Grand Slam looming right around the corner. which only raises the stakes further. Beyond that, the draw opens up into a semi-final picture that could include Aryna Sabalenka or Elena Rybakina, two players who have spent years sitting at the very top